Hi everyone, I'm Chris, and right now we're on my American 00 layout with these four hopper cars which I wanted to share with you. I got these hopper cars recently and thought that they were pretty interesting. These are all four Scalecraft hopper cars, which means they were probably built from kits, and I believe that they were all built by the same person. As you can see in the back here, these two are labeled for Chesapeake and Ohio. This one here on the left is Lehigh Valley, and this one here in the front is labeled for Norfolk and Ohio. If you're a longtime follower of American 00, you probably recognize that name, and that's what makes these four hopper cars interesting. If you've never heard of the Norfolk and Ohio Railroad, it was an American 00 scale model railroad built by Carl Appel. And Mr. Appel's layout was so impressive that it was actually featured in Model Railroader twice. The first time was in August 1948, and the second time was in November 1958. And in those two articles, you can see trains full of long strings of hopper cars just like these. In fact, the caption for one of the pictures said that the train was 75 cars long. If you've ever had one of these Scalecraft hopper cars, you know that they're die-cast, and they don't roll very well until the trucks have been tuned up just right. So to have a train being pulled reliably full of 75 Scalecraft hopper cars is a really impressive feat. Now you might be wondering why I think all four of these cars came from the Norfolk and Ohio Railroad when only one is labeled for it. Now I did buy all these cars as a group, and the seller did mention that they came from the Norfolk and Ohio. But I wanted to look at it myself and kind of come to my own conclusion. And the thing I really noticed about all these cars is that they are all very consistently built. Very much like they all had to have been built by the same person. While doing a little bit of research on these cars, I did find an article on the internet from October 17th, 2009 on the American 00 Today website. The author there, John Erickson, had an article on a Norfolk and Ohio hopper car that he had, and he noticed the consistency as I did. One of the things he mentioned is that if you look at the coal piles, you can actually see that the coal piles in the articles match the shape and design of these. He also mentioned that his cars had brake wheels. Mine do as well. They're vertical brake wheels. And I couldn't see a very good picture of the brake wheel in the article. But this is what my brake wheels look like. They're just round 5-spoke brake wheels. I will mention that on the Lehigh Valley car, I had to replace it because it was missing. And I used a HO scale KD brake wheel for that. My cars also have a little bit of weathering, just like the car in Mr. Erickson's article. This is probably the heaviest of the weathering, and this is probably the lightest. Also mentioned, just like my cars, his cars had this brass air hose, as well as KD couplers mounted with the trip pins cut off. And one thing I noticed that he didn't mention is that these KD couplers must be an early design because the shape of the knuckle is a little different than a modern KD coupler. Because of the shape of that knuckle, it won't mate up to a dummy Lionel or Scalecraft coupler, but it will still mate up to modern KD couplers. Also mentioned, and you can see on my cars as well, that there are some extra added brake details in here. As well as on my cars, if you can see it, there's a little wire brake piping there detail. And another thing that I noticed that Mr. Erickson didn't mention is that in order to mount these KD couplers, the inside of the frames were ground down to a very thin wall, and mine all use the same mounting hardware to mount the KD coupler. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look at what are otherwise drab and boring black hopper cars. I'll leave you with a couple of run-by shots. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.